So, how do you find a real edge in sports betting when you're just buried in stats? Well, today we're going to unpack one of the most interesting analytical plays I've seen all season. It's a story about two pitchers, two totally opposite bets, and it's all built on one single razor-sharp idea. So picture this. It's August 13th. An analyst is looking at two of the game's best young pitchers, Hunter Brown and Hunter Green. And they place two bets that, on the surface, seem to completely contradict each other. One bet was on pure dominance, and the other was a bet on failure. The craziest part, it was all connected.
Okay, so to really get what this analyst was thinking, you got to understand what a prop bet parlay is. They weren't just making two separate predictions. No, they were tying them together in one big, high-stakes wager. That means both bets have to hit. If even one loses, the whole thing is a bust. So what was the logic that made them so confident?
All right, let's break down the first part of this parlay. This was the bet that, when you looked at the numbers, seemed like an absolute, undeniable lock. It was all about Hunter Brown pitching at his home stadium.
And the first piece of evidence is this number right here, 2.37. That's Hunter Brown's ERA at home. Basically, it means he gives up less than 2.5 runs per game there. It's a massive difference from his road stats. His home field literally turns into a fortress where other teams just can't score.
And look, it's not just about stopping runs. For this bet, a strikeout bet, this is the money metric. At home, his strikeouts per 9 innings rate jumps up. So he's not just better at home, he's a more overpowering, dominant pitcher.
So how's he doing it? It's this brutal 1-2 punch. He's got a blistering fastball up high, and then he drops this nasty knuckle curve right off the table. For a hitter, trying to time that up, it's a total nightmare.
Now this number, this is where it gets really compelling. Against the specific team he was facing, the Red Sox, Brown had a career strikeout rate of over 35%. I mean, the history here was screaming that these guys just could not handle his stuff. But the analysis didn't stop there. It went deeper, looking at the exact lineup Boston was putting out that day. And what do you see? The middle of their order was just packed with guys who strike out a ton against right-handed pitchers. It was a dream matchup, playing perfectly into Brown's biggest strength.
So you see the point, right? Everything was lining up. His home field advantage, his strikeout numbers, his pitch arsenal, and the opponent's specific weakness. The consensus was clear. Betting on Hunter Brown to get over 6.5 strikeouts felt like the surest thing you could find.
Now, let's pivot to the second leg of this parlay. This is where it gets weird, a little counterintuitive, because the analysts didn't just bet on Brown's success. They also bet against another superstar pitcher. And that's the big question, right? Why on earth would you bet against Hunter Green? This guy is a physical marvel. He throws harder than any starting pitcher in history, and he strikes out almost a third of the guys he faces. Fading a guy like that, it just seems crazy.
Well, the answer wasn't in his talent. It was in the context. See, Green wasn't just coming back from an injury. He was coming back from a re-injury of his groin, an issue that had already torpedoed his season once. So his team had every single reason to be extra cautious with him. And this number, 85. This was the entire thesis. The whole bet hinged on this. The analysis wasn't about Green's skill. It was about the team putting a hard cap on his pitches. A handcuff that would seriously limit how long he could stay in the game, no matter how well he was pitching.
So this bet was built on a really sharp idea, separating talent from opportunity. Yeah, his talent is off the charts, no question. But his opportunity, capped at around 85 pitches and facing a really tough Phillies offense, was tiny. The bet was that this constraint, this lack of opportunity, was actually more important than his incredible talent.
And this one sentence just sums it all up perfectly. It wasn't a bet against Hunter Green, the pitcher. It was a bet against the number of pitches he was going to be allowed to throw. It was a pure volume play.
So now you've got it, the sure thing and the nuanced fade, all tied together in one parlay. So what happened? Well, what happened next is just a perfect example of why we love sports, right?
the sheer unpredictability.
The whole script just completely flipped. The fortress, it crumbled. Hunter Brown did not get his 7 strikeouts. But that weird, risky, contextual bet against the superstar, that one hid. Hunter Greene stayed under his strikeout total, and it was the only winning part of the parlay.
And if you look at Green's final line, you can see he was fantastic. 6 innings, no runs, only 3 hits, and 6 strikeouts. So why just 6? Well, look at that last column. 85 pitches. They pulled him right at his pitch count, exactly like the analysis predicted. The underbet was a winner because of that simple limit.
Okay, so the analysis on Greene was spot on perfect. But what about Hunter Brown? I mean, how did that ironclad, data-backed, sure-thing bet fall apart so badly?
Well, the other team didn't read the script. The Boston Red Sox came into that game with an absolutely brilliant plan. They decided to attack Brown early in the count. They refused to chase his best strikeout pitch out of the zone, and they focused on just making contact, even weak contact, instead of getting into deep 2-strike counts.
And the result of that plan boils down to this one single, unbelievable number, 7. That's how many swings and misses Hunter Brown got in his entire outing. 7. The Red Sox game plan completely and totally neutralized his biggest weapon.
So, the perfect parlay goes 1 for 2. The sure thing loses, and the weird, nuanced bet wins. So what's the real lesson here? What does this actually tell us about the whole game of analysis?
Well, the biggest takeaway isn't about being right or wrong. It's about having the right process. The logic behind both of these bets was sound. This case proves that deep context, something as simple as a pitch count, can be more powerful than raw talent. And it's just the perfect reminder that analysis only gives you probabilities, not certainties. Because at the end of the day, these games are played by humans, not by spreadsheets.
So this whole story leaves us with a really fascinating question to think about. When we have mountains of data telling us one thing is likely to happen, but a team's strategy or a player's grit can just completely blow it up, you have to wonder, in this game of numbers, what is the real value of all the things that we just can't